I don't know that there's anything HQ loves more than ranking things. And Douzable is here to rank his top 5 defenses in the NFL this season. Last year, the Eagles had the top total defense. They are not in your top 5.
They're not. They just missed it. There's a lot of turnover and change happening there. Now, Howie Roseman, the GM, does a masterful job of giving young players a redshirt year, but we don't know what those redshirt players are going to or how they're going to play, right? Jahad Campbell is the first-round pick dealing with an injury. How is he going to play next to Zach Bond? Nakobe Dean coming off a major injury. There's rumors that Cooper DeJean could move from the slot corner to safety. We don't know what that looks like. So too many question marks. Again, the Eagles were just outside of my top 5.
So who is at number 5 to start our countdown of the top defenses in the NFL?
Number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. And people are going to look at me and say, what? The Seattle Seahawks? Go turn on the film. Mike McDonald did a masterful job with this team. When you look at Leonard Williams, at times he was unblockable last year, 11 sacks. The one place they really struggled last year was stopping the run. They were giving up over 120 yards per game. Over the last 3 games, though, only gave up around 90 yards per game. And they went and rectified it in the offseason. They got Tank DeMarcus Lawrence to come in from Dallas, the best run-stopping defensive end in all of football. Nick Emanroy falls to them in the second round. What it's going to allow them to do is put him in the box. He's going to be able to help with that run game and allow Julian Love to be that general on the back end and go back and forth. Devin Witherspoon also with Tariq Woolen make one of the best tandems at corner. And I love the flexibility and versatility of a guy like Devin Witherspoon who can play in the slot and play outside. Do not get it twisted, Has. This team will be ran by its defense, and it will be a top 5 defense.
All right, well, it kind of makes sense. You have the Seahawks, who now have Sam Darnold at quarterback. At number 4, you also have a team with quarterback questions because Sam Darnold is no longer there. It's the Minnesota Vikings who have done a lot this offseason on that defense.
Have they ever? And they were already a top defense in the football with defensive coordinator Brian Flores being as inventive as he is when it comes to those exotic blitzes. Jonathan Gennard on the outside, Andrew Van Ginkel, both double-digit sack guys, all pros last year. Then you add in the middle of that defense, you see it right there at the top, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. This is already a top 5 defense against the run ass. Where they really struggled was giving it up in the pass. When you add those 2 guys that can push the pocket and get after the quarterbacks really hate that internal pressure. Also added Isaiah Rodgers, who will start at one corner. You get back Byron Murphy, who's one of the best slot corners, can play on the outside as well. And yes, you lose Cam Bynum, and the celebrations might not be as good for the Minnesota Vikings defense, but let's not forget, savvy vet Harrison Smith, he comes back. A guy that you really should circle, Josh Metellus, who played dime linebacker, who's going to slide into safety, and then Theo Jackson, who's really developed over the last 3 years. So again, this team really struggled against the pass, but that interior pass rush now with Jonathan Allen, with also Javon Hargrave, that guy right there, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, they're going to be able to get after the passer, which would force and speed up the quarterback's clock, and he'll have to get rid of the ball a lot sooner.
Nobody forced more turnovers than the Vikings last season, but this year you've got a rookie in J.J. McCarthy. How much more pressure is going to be on that defense?
I think that's why they did a good job of fortifying the interior of that defense. They wanted to make it as simple as possible for J.J. McCarthy. They not only shored up that defense interior, but the offense. The offensive line, the interior of the offensive line with Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. So when you look on paper, this is one of the most talented teams in football. It's going to come down to J.J. McCarthy just running Kevin O'Connell's offense like Sam Darnold did last year. That way they can have some success.
All right, the Minnesota Vikings come in at number 4 on Legé's list of the top defenses in the NFL. We've had 2 NFC teams so far, Vikings and Seahawks, 4 and 5 respectively. At number 3, going over to the AFC.
And that was a little bit of a foreshadow right there. That duo at the bottom, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., the Houston Texans are the number 3 team on this list. And when you look at it, they were top 6 in points per game, giving up third down defense, interceptions. I talked about Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. They both combined for 23 sacks, one of the best tandems on the outside. This is the best secondary in football. And I don't even think it's close. When you talk about a guy like Derek Stingley Jr., he just got an extension. There's not a better ball hawk at the corner position. Oh, look, they traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. All he's done, 2 out of the last 3 seasons, had at least 6 interceptions in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Not a lot of safeties can say that. Kamari Lassiter, opposite of Derek Stingley Jr. really came into his own as a rookie year. And because you have Derek Stingley Jr. on one side, the other guy's going to get picked on. But he stood up to the test week in and week out. Love Jalen Petrie in the slot. He is a formidable, fierce athlete that really gets after it in the box. And then Kalen Bullock, we talked about C.J. Gardner-Johnson having 6 interceptions. The young rookie last year had 5 interceptions. So this defense takes the ball away from you and they get after the quarterback. That's why they're the number 3 team on my list for top defenses in the NFL.
You say Houston has the best secondary in the National Football League. Your team coming in at number 2 has a great secondary as well, the Baltimore Ravens.
They do, and they just refortified it with Jair Alexander and the Baltimore Ravens. The funny thing is people are always talking about them and their lack of pass rush, which it bugs me a little bit, Has, because they were number 2 in the NFL in sacks. Kyle Van Noy has found a fountain of youth. I don't know if you've seen that movie that just came out on Apple, The Fountain of Youth. Well, that's what Kyle Van Noy has found. Over 12 sacks last year. Adafe Owa, over 10 sacks last year. And then they add a guy like Mike Green, who led all of college football in sacks. And do you see the change right there from weeks 1 through 10? They were 25th in points per game, 27th in total yards per game. Look at weeks 11 through 18. You know what happened, Has? Kyle Hamilton, the most versatile defensive player in the league, they moved him to middle field safety so he can communicate on the back end because they had way too many coverage busts. The last 7 weeks of the season, this was the number 1 defense in football. And guess what? I didn't even mention Jair Alexander, who they just brought in. When healthy, is a top 5 corner. And Roquan Smith is like the forgotten man, and all he's done has been a perennial All-Pro. So when you look at this Ravens team, I look for them to be more like they were the last 7 weeks than the first 11 weeks of the season.
I think the Ravens are now the only team with 2 cornerbacks in Prisco's top 100 players. Pete Prisco came out with his list of the top 100 players in the NFL last week. But your number 1 team is the team with the number 1 cornerback and did a great job fortifying up the middle in this offseason.
I mean, the Denver Broncos are the number 1 defense in football. You talked about it, PS2. Not only was he the number 1 cornerback in football, he won Defensive Player of the Year. Oh, yeah, they also had Nick Bonito, who was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year with 13.5 sacks and 2 touchdowns. This defense led the nation in sacks, and you see it right there, cornerbacks to win Defensive Player of the Year. Not only that, they were top 5 in red zone defense, yards per play given up, and third down defense. This defense will really get after you. And they were already strong, Has, but you know what they did in the draft? Jahdae Barron. I call him Weapon X because he can play so many positions in the back end. He's either going to play slot corner or on the outside as well. Riley Moss, opposite of PS2, really came along before the injury. He was playing at a high level. They added Telanu Hufunga to go with Brandon Jones, who was playing at a Pro Bowl level. You see him right there. You saw all he did in San Francisco, being a ball hawk, being around the line of scrimmage and creating havoc. And at the linebacking position, Dre Greenlaw, to get him from San Fran too, to really elevate that linebacking position. Their defense is so good. It's the reason why I feel like for the first time in 9 years, the Chiefs will not win the AFC West.
Really?
I believe the Denver Broncos will be crowned the AFC West champs because they have a championship-type defense.
And they have Bo Nix, who was one of the front runners last season for Offensive Rookie of the Year, finished 3rd in that voting. We had Bryant McFadden on yesterday. He was going through some young teams that could end up being new dynasties in the NFL. The Broncos were one of them, and so were the Houston Texans. And they have the 2 of the top 3 defenses in the league, according to Lige Douzable. Told you we love rankings at HQ. The latest episode of Pushing the Pile, they rank every quarterback in the NFL.